The message flashes across Douglas Gordon's personal comm unit, its content so bizarre he nearly chokes on his Syntho coffee. Human sampling required for Zarantine marriage rituals. He blinks, rereads. It's no glitch. Nexus 9's bustling promenade fades to background noise as Douglas processes the Galactic Council's urgent communique. The newly discovered Zarantine species believes humans possess unique genetic qualities. Their solution? Females must engage in intimate relations with a human before marrying within their own kind. Douglas's initial disbelief turns to reluctance as he reads on. Earth's government sees an opportunity in this sampling ritual, a chance to gain a powerful galactic ally. The alternative chills him. Failure means the Zarantines might align with the militant draconian empire instead. He stands, decision made. The fate of human Zarantine relations rests on his shoulders, and other parts of his anatomy, apparently. The station's medical bay hums with activity as Douglas undergoes a barrage of tests, compatibility checks, DNA scans, the works. In the adjacent room, he glimpses his Zarantine counterpart through a semi-transparent partition. She's tall, lithe, with iridescent skin that shifts colors like oil on water. I'm Celine, she introduces herself later, voice melodic but trembling slightly, daughter of High Counselor Zaxara. Her eyes, large and faceted like a dragonfly's, reflect the station's harsh lighting. The success of our encounter, it could change everything. Douglas nods, throat dry. No pressure, right? Outside, the situation intensifies. Protesters from a dozen species crowd the station's public areas. Some bear signs decrying the practice as barbaric exploitation. Others cheer for galactic unity through intimacy. Security drones swarm overhead, their presence a stark reminder of rising tensions. A pair of burly Craxterian guards escort Douglas and Celine to a specially prepared suite. The door hisses shut behind them, sealing them in a room that's equal parts luxury apartment and laboratory. One wall displays a real-time feed of Zarantine constellations. Another holds an array of mysterious devices Douglas can only guess at. So, he starts awkwardly, how does this usually... Celine's color shifting intensifies, bands of purple and gold racing across her skin. You're my first, actually. All our firsts. That's why it's so important. As they navigate the unfamiliar terrain of cross-species intimacy, neither notices the pinprick of light in the corner. A hidden camera activates, its feed ready to broadcast their every move across the galaxy. What should be a private cultural exchange teeters on the edge of becoming an interstellar incident. And somewhere in the depths of Nexus 9, shadowy figures wait to press transmit, their fingers hovering over buttons that could redefine galactic diplomacy forever. Douglas and Celine stood frozen in the center of the suite, their eyes locked on each other as the door hissed shut behind them. The room's opulence was immediately apparent, a blend of human and Zarantine aesthetics that might have been breathtaking under different circumstances. But with the weight of their mission pressing down on them, neither could fully appreciate the surroundings. So, Douglas started, his voice cracking slightly. He cleared his throat and tried again. How does this usually... Celine's skin rippled with bands of purple and gold, her discomfort evident in the rapid color shifts. You're my first, actually. All our firsts. That's why it's so important. Before Douglas could formulate a response, a deafening alarm blared throughout Nexus 9. The sudden noise made them both jump, Celine's iridescent skin flashing a startled white. What's happening? Celine asked, her melodic voice tinged with worry. As if in answer, a holographic message materialized in the center of the room. The flickering blue image of Chief Security Officer Jarnak appeared, his grizzled features set in a grim expression. Attention all personnel and guests. We have a security breach. A group of extremist protesters has entered the station. Please remain in your current locations until further notice. All doors have been automatically locked for your safety. The hologram winked out, leaving Douglas and Celine staring at the space where it had been. The sounds of conflict, shouts, running footsteps, and what might have been weapons fire filtered through the walls. Protesters, Douglas muttered, moving closer to Celine without thinking. I saw them outside, but I didn't think they'd actually breach the station. Celine's skin had taken on a muted, anxious gray. This is my fault. If I hadn't come here— No, Douglas interrupted, surprising himself with the firmness in his voice. This isn't on you. We're both just doing what we need to do for our people. A loud bang from somewhere in the station made them both flinch. Instinctively, they moved closer together, their earlier awkwardness momentarily forgotten in the face of potential danger. I don't understand, Celine said, her large faceted eyes reflecting the room's soft lighting. Why would anyone go to such lengths to stop this? It's just a simple cultural exchange. Douglas let out a humorless chuckle. Humans have a long history of getting worked up over who sleeps with whom. I guess some things are universal. As they spoke, the environmental controls in the room began to shift. The temperature rose steadily, beads of sweat forming on Douglas's forehead. At the same time, Celine wrapped her arms around herself, her skin taking on a bluish tinge. Something's wrong, Douglas said, moving to the control panel near the door. He tapped at the screen, but it remained unresponsive. The environment regulators are malfunctioning. Celine shivered visibly. It's getting too cold for me. My species requires higher temperatures to function properly. Douglas, already uncomfortably warm, felt a surge of concern for his alien counterpart. And it's getting too hot for me. We need to balance this out somehow. They began working together, using what they knew of each other's physiological needs to jury-rig a solution. Douglas found some thermal blankets in a storage compartment and draped one over Celine's shoulders. In return, she showed him how to activate a personal cooling field using one of the mysterious devices on the wall. As they worked, their initial hesitation began to fade. The crisis outside and the environmental challenge inside forced them to communicate, to understand each other on a level beyond mere diplomacy. Your skin, Douglas said as they huddled near an air vent, trying to create a pocket of bearable atmosphere. The colors are amazing. Do they always change like that? Celine's skin rippled with a softer shade of purple. It's how we express emotions. Right now, I'm nervous, but also curious. Her eyes met his, and Douglas felt an unexpected flutter in his chest. Outside, the sounds of conflict grew louder. A voice, amplified and filled with hatred, echoed through the station. Humans and Zarantines, the voice boomed. Your unholy union will not stand. The Draconian Empire will not allow this abomination to continue. Douglas recognized the voice from news reports. Zathkar, the charismatic Draconian extremist. He felt Celine tense beside him. They're broadcasting across the station, she said, her voice tight with worry. If they access the main communication array, they could spread their message across the galaxy, Douglas finished. The implications were staggering. If Zathkar succeeded, it could derail not just their mission, but the entire diplomatic process between humans and Zarantines. As the gravity of their situation sank in, Douglas became acutely aware of Celine's proximity. The environmental crisis had forced them into close quarters, and he could feel the alienness of her body heat, the strange texture of her skin where it brushed against his arm. Their eyes met, and in that moment, something shifted between them. The attraction that had been simmering beneath the surface of their awkward introduction suddenly felt more urgent, more real. Douglas, Celine said, her voice barely above a whisper. I think I understand now why this ritual is so important to my people. There's something profound about this connection. He nodded, unable to find words. The room around them faded away. The alarms, the shouts, even the discomfort of the malfunctioning environment controls seemed distant and unimportant. As they leaned towards each other, drawn by a force that transcended species and culture, neither of them noticed the small, blinking light in the corner of the room. The hidden camera continued to record, capturing every moment of their unexpected intimacy, ready to broadcast it to a galaxy on the brink of chaos. In the control center of Nexus 9, Chief Jarnak barked orders to his security teams, his eyes darting between monitors showing the advancing protesters and the feed from the diplomatic suite. He knew that the next few moments could change the course of galactic history, and it all hinged on what happened in that room, and whether he could keep that footage from falling into the wrong hands. As Douglas and Celine huddled together near the air vent, The environmental controls in the room spiraled further out of control. The temperature began to fluctuate wildly, swinging from sweltering heat to bone-chilling cold in a matter of minutes. "This isn't working," Douglas said through chattering teeth as another wave of cold washed over them. He glanced at Celine, her iridescent skin now a pale, sickly blue. "We need to do something more drastic." Celine nodded weakly, her large eyes dulling. "What do you suggest?" Douglas took a deep breath, his military training kicking in. "We need to conserve body heat. It's not ideal, but we should remove our outer layers and press close together." Celine's skin flickered with a mix of purple and gold, her equivalent of a blush. "Is that necessary?" "I'm afraid so," Douglas replied, already shrugging off his jacket. "It could save our lives." With hesitant movements, they began to shed their diplomatic attire. As layers fell away, both were struck by the stark differences and surprising similarities between their physiques. Douglas couldn't help but marvel at the intricate patterns that swirled across Celine's skin, while she found herself fascinated by the texture of his hair. As they pressed together, skin to skin, the initial awkwardness gave way to a surprising comfort. Douglas felt Celine's alien body heat, warmer than a human's, seeping into him. Her skin, smooth and slightly cool to the touch, seemed to pulse with life against his. This is not unpleasant," Celine murmured, her voice a mix of surprise and something deeper. Before Douglas could respond, the room plunged into darkness. The artificial gravity stuttered, and suddenly they were floating, untethered in the pitch-black suite. "The power," Douglas exclaimed, tightening his grip on Celine. "Something must have happened outside." Indeed, beyond the walls of their suite, Chief Jarnak had made the difficult decision to initiate an emergency power shutdown of the entire diplomatic wing. It was a desperate move to prevent Zathkar from broadcasting his message across the galaxy, but it came with unforeseen consequences. In the darkness of the suite, Douglas and Celine clung to each other, their bodies pressed close as they drifted aimlessly. The loss of gravity, combined with the intimate contact necessitated by their survival, created a surreal, otherworldly atmosphere. "Douglas," Celine whispered, her breath warm against his ear. "I'm afraid." He pulled her closer, feeling the rapid beat of her alien heart. "It's okay. We're in this together." As they floated in the darkness, bodies intertwined, the fear and adrenaline coursing through them began to transform. The diplomatic sampling ritual, once a formality, now took on a new urgency. Their lips found each other in the darkness, the kiss tentative at first, then growing in passion. Celine's skin began to glow softly, providing an ethereal illumination in the pitch-black room. The bioluminescence intensified with her emotions, bathing them in a mesmerizing, ever-changing light show. As their encounter deepened, something unexpected began to occur. The unique biochemistry of their species interacted in ways neither could have anticipated. Douglas felt a tingling sensation spreading through his body, while Celine experienced a rush of unfamiliar sensations. Their passionate union reached its peak just as the power in the diplomatic wing suddenly returned. Light flooded the room, gravity reasserted itself, and they found themselves tangled together on the floor, Celine's skin still pulsing with vibrant colors. Before they could fully process what had happened, the door to the suite slid open with a hiss. Chief Jarnak stood in the doorway, his eyes widening at the scene before him. Behind him, a restrained Zathkar snarled in disgust, while an elegant Zarantine, clearly a high-ranking official, regarded them with a mix of surprise and intrigue. "Well," Jarnak said, clearing his throat, "I see the sampling ritual has been completed." Douglas and Celine scrambled to separate, hastily gathering their discarded clothing. As they dressed, both became aware of a subtle but significant change in themselves. Something felt different, altered at a fundamental level. The high-ranking Zarantine stepped forward, his skin shimmering with authority. "I am High Counselor Zareth," he announced. "It seems we have arrived at a most interesting moment." As Douglas and Celine stood, still flushed and disoriented, they realized that their unexpected encounter had not only fulfilled the ritual, but potentially change the course of human-Zarantine relations forever. The genetic mutations triggered by their union were just beginning to manifest, promising to complicate an already complex diplomatic situation. The group stood in tense silence, the air heavy with the weight of what had transpired and the uncertainty of what was to come. Outside the suite, the sounds of the station returning to normal operations filtered in, a stark contrast to the momentous event that had just occurred within these walls. Walls. The tension in the room was palpable as Douglas and Celine stood frozen, their bodies still tingling from the unexpected intimacy they had just shared. Chief Jarnak's eyes darted between them, his expression a mix of shock and concern. "We need to get you both to the medical bay immediately," Jarnak said, his voice tight with urgency. "Dr. Voss needs to examine you." Before either could protest, they were whisked away from the diplomatic suite, leaving behind the scene of their passionate encounter. As they were led through the corridors of Nexus 9, Douglas couldn't help but notice the strange sensation coursing through his body. It was as if every cell was vibrating with an unfamiliar energy. Celine walked beside him, her skin still pulsing with faint bioluminescence. She caught his eye, and he saw a reflection of his own confusion and wonder in her gaze. The medical bay doors hissed open, revealing Dr. Ilara Voss, the station's chief medical officer. Her piercing blue eyes widened as she took in the sight of the disheveled diplomat and his Zarantine counterpart. "On the beds, both of you," she ordered, her tone brooking no argument. As Douglas and Celine complied, Dr. Voss began running a series of scans, her brow furrowing deeper with each passing moment. "This is unprecedented," she muttered, eyes fixed on the holographic display of their genetic makeup. "Your DNA is mutating at an alarming rate." Douglas felt a cold wave of fear wash over him. "Is it dangerous?" Dr. Voss shook her head, her expression a mix of concern and fascination. "Not immediately life-threatening, but the changes are significant. Douglas, your skin cells are developing bioluminescent properties similar to Celine's. And Celine, your body temperature is shifting towards human norms." As if on cue, Douglas noticed a faint glow emanating from his forearm. He stared in disbelief as the light pulsed in rhythm with his heartbeat. Celine reached out, her fingers brushing against his glowing skin. "It's beautiful," she whispered, her voice filled with awe. Dr. Voss cleared her throat, breaking the moment. "I'm afraid I'll have to quarantine you both. We don't know if these changes are contagious or what other effects they might have." As the doctor spoke, Douglas became aware of a strange presence in his mind. He turned to Celine, seeing a look of surprise mirrored on her face. "Can you hear me?" he thought, focusing his mind on her. Celine's eyes widened. "Yes," she replied silently, her thoughts crystal clear in his mind. How is this possible? Their newfound telepathic connection was interrupted by the arrival of High Counselor Zar Eth and a team of Zarantine scientists. The counselor's skin shimmered with excitement as he approached. "This is remarkable," Zareth exclaimed, his eyes darting between Douglas and Celine. "The genetic compatibility between our species is far greater than we ever imagined. This could change everything." As the medical bay buzzed with activity, alarms suddenly blared throughout the station. Chief Jarnak burst in, his face grave. "We have a situation," he announced. "Zathkar has escaped custody and accessed a communication terminal. He's transmitted partial footage from the hidden cameras to the Draconian Empire." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Douglas and Celine exchanged worried glances, their thoughts intertwining. "Hidden cameras?" Douglas thought, a mix of anger and embarrassment coloring his mental voice. "This is bad," Celine replied silently. "The Draconians will use this against us." Their silent conversation was interrupted by Dr. Voss. "Your conditions are still evolving," she said, studying the latest scan results. "Douglas, your physical strength is increasing. Celine, your cognitive functions are showing remarkable enhancement." As if to demonstrate, Douglas absent-mindedly gripped the edge of the examination bed, leaving finger-shaped dents in the metal. Celine, meanwhile, found herself solving complex equations in her head with ease. The medical bay doors slid open once more, revealing a stern-faced woman in an Earth military uniform adorned with Admiral's insignia. The room fell silent as she strode in, her piercing gaze taking in the scene. "Admiral Helena Reeves," she announced, her voice commanding immediate attention. "I've been dispatched by Earth's government to handle this situation." As Admiral Reeves began discussing the diplomatic ramifications with High Counselor Zareth and Chief Jarnak, Douglas and Celine remained on their examination beds, their minds reeling from the rapid changes to their bodies and the growing political storm around them. "What's happening to us?" Celine thought, her mental voice tinged with fear and excitement. Douglas reached out, taking her hand in his. The contact sent a jolt of energy through them both, their newly altered physiologies reacting in unpredictable ways. "I don't know," he replied silently, giving her hand a reassuring squeeze. "But whatever it is, we're in this together." As they lay there, their bodies continuing to change and adapt, neither Douglas nor Celine could shake the feeling that their unexpected union had set in motion events that would reshape not just their own lives, but the future of human-Zarantine relations, and perhaps the entire galaxy. Outside the medical bay, the corridors of Nexus 9 buzzed with rumors and speculation. The news of the successful sampling spread like wildfire, igniting passionate debates and raising questions that no one was quite prepared to answer. The station, once a symbol of interspecies cooperation, now stood at the center of a brewing galactic storm. Crisis, rumbles of change echoed through the station's corridors. Douglas and Celine remained in the medical bay, their bodies still adapting to the unexpected genetic mutations. As Dr. Voss continued her examinations, an excited buzz filled the air. Whispers of their successful sampling spread like wildfire, igniting curiosity and speculation among the diverse inhabitants of Nexus 9. "The sequencing results are fascinating," Dr. Voss muttered, her eyes fixed on the holographic display. "Your genetic structures are intertwining in ways I've never seen before." Before Douglas could respond, the medical bay's doors slid open, revealing a harried-looking Chief Jarnak. "We have a situation," he announced, his voice tight with tension. "Word of your encounter has leaked. We're receiving transmission requests from across the galaxy." Admiral Reeves stepped forward, her posture rigid. "What kind of requests?" Jarnak's antennae twitched nervously. "Multiple species are expressing interest in establishing their own sampling programs with humans. Our docking bays are already filling up with ships from civilizations we've barely had contact with." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Douglas and Celine exchanged glances, their newfound telepathic link humming with shared anxiety. "This is unprecedented," High Counselor Zareth mused, his skin shimmering with a mix of excitement and concern. "The potential for galactic cooperation is immense, but so are the risks." Admiral Reeves's eyes narrowed as she processed the information. "We need to control this situation before it spirals out of hand," she declared. "Chief Jarnak, I want increased security measures throughout the station. Dr. Voss, continue your research, but under strict protocols. No unauthorized access to your findings." As the Admiral barked out orders, Douglas felt a surge of dizziness. His skin began to glow more intensely, pulsing in sync with his racing heartbeat. Beside him, Celine gasped, her eyes widening as she experienced a sudden burst of cognitive enhancement. "Douglas," she thought, her mental voice crystal clear in his mind. "I can see patterns, equations. It's like the universe is unfolding before me." He reached out, grasping her hand. The contact sent a jolt of energy through them both, their altered physiologies reacting in unexpected ways. "I can feel it too," he replied silently. "It's overwhelming, but exhilarating." Dr. Voss rushed to their side, her medical scanner whirring. "Your conditions are evolving rapidly," she reported, her voice a mix of concern and fascination. "Douglas, your physical strength is increasing exponentially. Celine, your brainwave patterns are off the charts." As if to demonstrate, Douglas absent-mindedly gripped the edge of the examination bed, his fingers leaving deep indentations in the metal. Celine, meanwhile, found herself solving complex mathematical theorems in her head with ease. Admiral Reeves watched the scene unfold, her expression unreadable. "We need to contain this," she said firmly. "Doctor, I want them moved to a secure quarantine zone immediately. and I need a plan for managing these alien requests. As medical staff prepared to transfer Douglas and Celine, alarms blared throughout the station. Chief Jarnak's communicator crackled to life, filling the room with a frantic voice. Sir, we have multiple unauthorized docking attempts. Alien ships are forcing their way into the station. The tension in the room ratcheted up several notches. Admiral Reeves sprang into action, issuing rapid-fire orders to fortify the station's defenses. High Counselor Zareth conferred urgently with his aides, coordinating the Zarantine response. Amidst the chaos, Douglas and Celine were swiftly moved to a heavily guarded quarantine zone. As the doors sealed behind them, they found themselves alone in a sterile, white room, the sounds of the station's growing crisis muffled but still audible. What's happening to us? Celine asked aloud, her voice trembling slightly. And what's going to happen out there? Douglas pulled her close, feeling the warmth of her skin against his glowing chest. I don't know, he admitted, but whatever comes next, we're facing it together. As they held each other, their minds intertwined, sharing not just thoughts but a flood of emotions and sensations. Their bond deepened, transcending the physical and venturing into uncharted territory of interspecies connection. Outside their quarantine, Nexus 9 transformed into a hive of frenzied activity. The station's docking bays overflowed with ships from every corner of the galaxy, each bearing representatives eager to establish their own sampling programs with humans. Admiral Reeves, now firmly in command of the human delegation, strode through the corridors, her face set in unyielding commitment. She barked orders into her communicator, coordinating with station security to manage the influx of alien visitors. I want a dedicated sampling facility set up immediately, she commanded. Full medical staff, security personnel, the works. We need to control this process from start to finish. As her team scrambled to comply, Dr. Voss huddled with her colleagues in the main laboratory. Holographic displays flickered with rapidly changing data as they analyzed the ongoing mutations in Douglas and Celine. It's not just random changes, Dr. Voss murmured, her eyes wide with wonder. Their DNS is adapting in real time, optimizing for survival in each other's presence. The implications are staggering. A new voice cut through the scientific discussion. Indeed they are, Doctor, but have you considered the long-term consequences? All heads turned to see a striking woman with piercing green eyes standing in the doorway. She strode into the lab with confidence, her lab coat bearing the insignia of Earth's top xenobiology institute. Dr. Lyra Astor, she introduced herself, her gaze sweeping the room. I believe I have information vital to understanding these mutations. As Dr. Astor began sharing her findings, alarms blared once again. On the bridge, Chief Jarnak received a transmission that made his blood run cold. Admiral, he called, his voice tight with tension, we've detected a draconian fleet approaching the station. They're claiming to be here to protect galactic stability. Admiral Reeves's eyes narrowed. So, the game begins in earnest, she muttered. Raising her voice, she addressed her staff. Send out a call to Earth. We need reinforcements. And get me the Zarantine High Council. It's time to see just how committed they are to this new alliance. As Nexus 9 braced for potential conflict, Douglas and Celine remained in their quarantine, unaware of the gathering storm. Their bodies continued to change, powers growing in ways neither of them could have imagined. And deep in the station's lower levels, hidden cameras recorded it all, transmitting data to unseen watchers with their own agendas for the future of human-alien relations. The stage was set for a confrontation that would shape the destiny of not just two species, but the entire galaxy. And at the heart of it all, a human diplomat and a Zarantine envoy, their bodies and minds evolving beyond the boundaries of their original species, stood on the precipice of a transformation that would challenge the very definition of humanity and alien alike. As the crisis on Nexus 9 intensified, Admiral Reeves recognized the need for a bold strategy to navigate the complex web of interspecies politics and the potential threat looming on the horizon. She turned her attention to the two individuals at the heart of the unfolding drama, Douglas and Celine. We need to stabilize their condition and harness their abilities. Admiral Reeves declared, her voice firm with tenacity. Dr. Astor, I want you to work with Dr. Voss on finalizing the treatment protocol. We'll be conducting a demonstration for the Galactic representatives, and I need Douglas and Celine at their best. Dr. Lyra Astor nodded, her green eyes gleaming with tenacity. I've been analyzing their genetic profiles, Admiral. I believe I can design a series of treatments to unlock their full potential while maintaining stability. Over the next few days, Douglas and Celine underwent an intense regimen of genetic therapies and physiological adjustments under Dr. Astor's supervision. The quarantine zone became a hub of activity as medical staff and researchers worked around the clock to prepare the duo for the upcoming demonstration. During one of the treatment sessions, Douglas gritted his teeth as waves of energy coursed through his body. His skin pulsed with an otherworldly glow, the light intensifying with each passing moment. How are you holding up? Dr. Astor asked, monitoring his vitals closely. It's intense, Douglas managed to say, his voice strained, but I can feel myself changing, becoming stronger. Beside him, Celine's eyes fluttered rapidly, her mind processing vast amounts of information at an unprecedented rate. The equations, they're becoming clearer, she murmured. I can see patterns in the very fabric of space-time. As the treatments progressed, Douglas and Celine's bond deepened. Their telepathic link strengthened, allowing them to share not just thoughts but sensations and emotions with increasing clarity. Finally, the day of the demonstration arrived. The station's main conference hall had been transformed into an arena of sorts, with tiered seating filled with representatives from across the galaxy. The air crackled with tension and anticipation as Admiral Reeves took the stage. Distinguished guests, she began, her voice carrying across the hushed room. Today, we stand on the precipice of a new era in galactic cooperation. What you are about to witness is the result of a groundbreaking collaboration between humans and Zarantines. As Admiral Reeves continued her speech, Douglas and Celine waited in an antechamber, their bodies humming with newfound energy. Dr. Astor approached them, her face a mask of professional calm. Remember, if you experience any discomfort or instability, signal me immediately, she instructed. We've prepared contingencies, but we need to be cautious. Douglas nodded, feeling a sudden wave of dizziness wash over him. He steadied himself against the wall, his hand leaving a faint imprint in the metal. Is this normal? He asked, a note of concern in his voice. Dr. Astor frowned, quickly scanning him with a handheld device. Your body is reacting to the station's artificial environment more strongly than we anticipated. Celine, are you experiencing anything similar? Celine blinked rapidly, her eyes unfocused. The air, it feels thick, and I'm seeing flashes of something. It's not clear. Before Dr. Astor could respond, a chime sounded, signaling their cue to enter the conference hall. With a quick glance at each other, Douglas and Celine stepped onto the stage, greeted by a mix of awed murmurs and skeptical whispers from the assembled crowd. Admiral Reeves gestured toward them. I present to you the future of interspecies collaboration, Douglas Chen and Celine Zareth. As they moved to the center of the stage, Douglas felt a surge of energy course through him. Without warning, the lights in the conference hall flickered, and several holographic displays around the room sprang to life. Gasps rippled through the audience as Douglas, acting on instinct, raised his hands. The holographic displays responded to his movements, shifting and changing in ways that defied their original programming. Incredible, a Zentari diplomat whispered. He's interfacing directly with our technology. Celine, meanwhile, stood with her eyes closed, her mind reaching out to touch the thoughts of those around her. Suddenly, her eyes snapped open, glowing with an inner light. I can see it, she announced, her voice resonating with newfound power. The patterns of probability, the threads of future events. To demonstrate, she pointed to a Vexillian observer in the third row. In exactly 7 seconds, you will receive an urgent message from your homeworld. True to her word, moments later, the Vexillian's communication device chimed with an incoming transmission. The demonstration continued, with Douglas and Celine showcasing their enhanced abilities in ways that left the audience stunned. Their telepathic link allowed them to coordinate their actions with preternatural precision, anticipating each other's moves before they happened. However, as the demonstration reached its climax, Douglas felt a sharp pain lance through his body. His skin began to glow more intensely, the light pulsing erratically. Celine, he thought, reaching out through their mental link. Something's wrong. Celine turned to him, her own discomfort evident in her eyes. I feel it too. The station, it's affecting us somehow. Dr. Astor, noticing their distress, rushed forward with a small device in hand. Hold on, she said urgently. This should help stabilize your condition temporarily. As she activated the device, a soft field of energy enveloped Douglas and Celine. The pain subsided, but a sense of unease lingered. Before anyone could react further, alarms blared throughout the station. Chief Jarnak's voice came over the intercom, tight with tension. Admiral Reeves, we have multiple unknown ships entering the system. They're on an intercept course with Nexus 9. The conference hall erupted into chaos as the gathered diplomats reacted to the news. Admiral Reeves moved swiftly to take control of the situation, barking orders into her communicator. Amidst the confusion, Celine suddenly stiffened, her eyes going wide. I see them, she whispered, her voice filled with dread. An attack. Destruction. We have to warn everyone. Douglas, linked to her mind, saw flashes of the vision. Strange, crystalline ships descending upon Nexus 9. Weapons of unimaginable power tearing through the station's defenses. As the station's security protocols engaged and the diplomatic corps scrambled to respond to the emerging crisis, Douglas and Celine found themselves at the center of a storm that threatened to engulf not just Nexus 9, but the entire galaxy. Their enhanced abilities, still not fully understood or controlled, might be the key to averting disaster, if they could master them in time. Admiral Reeves, witnessing the alarming transformation of Douglas and Celine, quickly ushered them off the stage and into a secure medical bay. Dr. Astor, what's happening to them? She demanded, her eyes fixed on the glowing forms of the human Zarantine pair. Dr. Lyra Astor's fingers flew over a series of holographic displays, her brow furrowed in concentration. Their genetic transformation is accelerating beyond our initial projections, Admiral. The rate of change is unprecedented. As they watched, Douglas's skin began to shimmer with iridescent patches, the light pulsing in rhythm with his ragged breathing. Beside him, Celine's body structure shifted, her alien form gradually taking on more humanoid characteristics. Can you stabilize them? Admiral Reeves asked, her voice tight with concern. Dr. Astor shook her head. I'm not sure we should. Their evolution might be key to our survival. A thunderous explosion rocked the station, nearly knocking them off their feet. Chief Jarnak's voice crackled over the intercom. Admiral, the unknown ships have breached our outer defenses. They're like nothing we've ever seen before. Admiral Reeves's mind raced, weighing the risks against the potential advantages. With a deep breath, she made her decision. Dr. Astor, prepare Douglas and Celine for immediate deployment. We're going to use their abilities to coordinate our defense. Within minutes, the transformed couple found themselves in a specially equipped command center. Holographic displays surrounded them, showing the positions of Allied ships and the encroaching enemy fleet. Douglas reached out, his fingers brushing against the flickering lights. To everyone's amazement, the displays responded to his touch, information flowing at his command. I can feel the systems, he said, his voice filled with wonder. It's like they're extensions of my own body. Celine's eyes darted across the tactical displays, her pupils dilating rapidly. The enemy ships, she gasped. I can see their movements before they happen. Admiral Reeves leaned in, her voice urgent. Can you use that information to coordinate our defenses? Celine nodded, her newly humanoid features set with grit. Douglas, if I feed you the predictions, can you relay them to our fleet? Already on it, Douglas replied, his hands dancing across the holographic interfaces. As the battle raged outside, Douglas and Celine worked in perfect synchronization. Celine's precognitive flashes allowed her to anticipate the enemy's tactics seconds before they occurred. She relayed this information to Douglas, who used his newfound technopathic abilities to instantly update the Allied fleet's formations and weapon systems. Admiral Zexkor, commanding the Draconian forces, was initially skeptical of relying on the transformed couple. However, as he watched his ships effortlessly evade enemy fire and strike with uncanny precision, he couldn't deny their effectiveness. "By the cosmic wind," he muttered, his scaled face creased with a mix of awe and concern. What have these humans and Zarantines created? The unknown alien ships, resembling massive cybernetic jellyfish, pulsed with eerie bioluminescence as they advanced on Nexus 9. Their tentacle-like appendages lashed out, releasing swarms of smaller, drone-like entities that attempted to breach the station's hull. Inside the command center, Douglas and Celine's transformation continued to progress. Douglas's skin now gleamed with a metallic sheen, while Celine's body had become a perfect blend of human and Zarantine physiology. Energy crackled around them, interfering with the nearby equipment. Dr. Astor, monitoring their condition from an adjoining room, called out to Admiral Reeves. "Admiral, their genetic structure is reaching a critical point of change. The energy they're emitting, it's unlike anything I've ever seen." As if in response to her words, a wave of energy burst forth from Douglas and Celine, washing over the command center and spreading throughout Nexus 9. The station's systems flickered momentarily before surging back to life, more powerful than ever. On the tactical displays, the Allied ships glowed with a strange, protective aura. The enemy's most devastating weapons seemed to dissipate harmlessly against this new energy field. Admiral Reeves's eyes widened as she realized the implications. "This is our chance," she said, her voice filled with fierce intensity. "All ships, press the attack. Push them back while we have the advantage." The Allied fleet surged forward, their weapons finding weak points in the alien defenses that hadn't existed moments before. The cybernetic jellyfish recoiled, their coordinated assault faltering in the face of this unexpected resistance. As the tide of battle turned, Douglas and Celine's merger accelerated. Their bodies began to blur at the edges, the boundary between them becoming indistinct. Energy arced between them, forming intricate patterns in the air. "Admiral," Douglas called out, his voice overlapping with Celine's, "something's happening. We can feel the enemy's presence in our minds. They're afraid." Before Admiral Reeves could respond, alarms blared throughout the command center. Chief Jarnak's voice cut through the chaos. "Intruder alert! Enemy forces have breached the station. They're heading straight for the command center." Admiral Reeves spun towards the security feeds, watching as a group of alien warriors, their bodies a disturbing fusion of organic and mechanical parts, tore through Nexus 9's defenses. "They're coming for Douglas and Celine," she realized aloud. "They know they're the source of our advantage." As she prepared to order a full evacuation of the command center, an unexpected voice crackled over the comms. "This is Admiral Zexkor of the Draconian fleet. We're boarding your station now, Admiral Reeves. My warriors and I will intercept these intruders." The security feeds showed Draconian troops pouring out of their shuttles, moving with deadly precision to engage the alien borders. Human and Zarantine security forces, initially wary, quickly joined forces with their former enemies to repel the greater threat. In the command center, Douglas and Celine's merger reached its culmination. In a blinding flash of light, their separate forms disappeared, replaced by a single being of breathtaking beauty and power. This new entity, neither fully human nor Zarantine, radiated an energy that seemed to bend reality itself. As the merged being opened its eyes, the entire station thrummed with power. The alien intruders stopped in their tracks, their cybernetic components shorting out. Outside, the massive jellyfish ships began to list aimlessly in space, their coordinated attack dissolving into chaos. Admiral Reeves watched in awe as the tide of battle shifted dramatically in their favor. Yet even as victory seemed within reach, she couldn't help but wonder at the cost. What would this transformation mean for Douglas, for Celine, for the future of human-alien relations? As the Void Collective forces began their retreat, leaving behind a battered but unbroken Nexus 9, the true implications of this new hybrid being's existence remained to be seen. The immediate threat had been repelled, But the consequences of this evolutionary leap were only beginning to unfold. As the Void Collective's forces scattered into the depths of space, the merged entity that was once Douglas and Celine continued to evolve at an unprecedented rate. The radiant energy surrounding them intensified, growing brighter and more expansive with each passing moment. Soon the luminous aura enveloped not only the command center, but spread throughout Nexus 9 and beyond, bathing the Allied fleet in its otherworldly glow. Admiral Reeves and Dr. Astor shielded their eyes as the light reached its zenith. When they looked again, they gasped in astonishment. Where the hybrid being had stood, Douglas and Celine now hovered, their physical forms transformed into shimmering apparitions of pure energy. "Douglas? Celine?" Admiral Reeves called out, her voice a mix of awe and concern. The energy beings turned to face her, their features recognizable yet ethereal. When they spoke, their voices resonated directly in the minds of all present. "We are here, Admiral," they communicated in unison. "We have ascended to a higher plane of existence. Our consciousness has expanded beyond the confines of physical form, allowing us to perceive the true nature of reality." Dr. Astor stepped forward, her scientific curiosity overriding her initial shock. "What exactly can you perceive?" "We see the interconnectedness of all life in the galaxy," Celine's consciousness replied. "The intricate web of relationships between species, planets, and even the fabric of space-time itself." "This understanding has shown us a path forward," Douglas added, "a solution to the conflicts that have long divided our peoples." Before anyone could respond, the energy beings extended their influence outward. A wave of psychic energy washed over the station, touching the minds of every being present. In the conference hall, the gathered diplomats and leaders suddenly found themselves connected by an invisible neural network. Admiral Zexkor, who had just returned from repelling the Void Collective borders, staggered as the link took hold. His reptilian eyes widened as he experienced, for the first time, the thoughts and emotions of his former enemies. For a brief, transcendent moment, perfect understanding flowed between all species. Linguistic and cultural barriers dissolved, replaced by a profound sense of unity. The Zarantine High Counselor Zareth felt the passion and curiosity that drove humanity's expansion into space. Human diplomats experienced the deep spiritual connection the Draconians held with their ancestral territories. Each race gained insights into the fears, hopes, and dreams that motivated the others. As quickly as it had formed, the neural link faded. The assembled leaders blinked, coming back to themselves, forever changed by the experience. Admiral Zexkor was the first to break the stunned silence. He strode purposefully towards Admiral Reeves, his posture no longer one of aggression, but of respect. "Admiral," he said, his voice gruff with emotion, "on behalf of the Draconian Empire, I formally renounce our previous stance of hostility. We offer a treaty of cooperation with Earth and the Zarantine Collective." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd as other representatives stepped forward, eager to forge new alliances in the wake of their shared experience. Amidst the flurry of diplomatic activity, Dr. Astor approached the energy beings that were Douglas and Celine. "Your transformation," she said, her mind racing with possibilities. "It's unlocked so much potential. If we could harness this process, control it." "We can help with that," Douglas replied, his energy form pulsing with excitement. "Our ascension has granted us access to genetic knowledge beyond anything previously imagined." Over the next few hours, Douglas and Celine worked closely with Dr. Astor, transmitting vast amounts of data directly into the station's computers. As the information coalesced, a new method of genetic manipulation began to take shape. "I'm calling it harmonic integration," Dr. Astor announced to the gathered leaders. "It's a process that allows for controlled genetic mixing between compatible species, providing the benefits of interspecies, breeding without the risks of uncontrolled mutation." The implications of this discovery sent shockwaves through the assembled diplomats. The Galactic Council representatives, still reeling from the shared neural experience, saw an opportunity to reshape interspecies relations on a fundamental level. "We propose a new framework," the lead counselor declared, "one based on mutual understanding and genetic compatibility. Nexus 9 shall be redesignated as the Galactic Hub of Interspecies Cooperation, a center for cultural exchange, scientific research, and diplomatic relations. As plans for the future took shape, Douglas and Celine's energy forms began to pulse more rapidly. They turned to address the gathering one final time. "Our journey has opened doors to realms beyond imagination," Celine communicated. "We must explore further, seek out the mysteries of the universe." "But before we go," Douglas added, "we leave you with a gift." A stream of data flowed from the energy beings into Nexus 9's central computer. As the information materialized on nearby screens, gasps of amazement filled the room. It was a database containing information on countless alien species yet unknown to the galactic community. "A roadmap for future exploration and cooperation," Celine explained. "May it guide you on the path to a united galaxy." With a final pulse of energy, Douglas and Celine created a lasting monument to their transformation. In the center of Nexus 9's main atrium, a swirling, iridescent structure materialized. It pulsed with a subtle energy that seemed to enhance empathy and understanding among those in its presence. As the energy beings prepared to depart, Admiral Reeves stepped forward. "Will we see you again?" she asked, her voice tinged with both hope and sadness. "We will return," Douglas assured her, "and we will bring with us knowledge beyond imagining." In a brilliant flash of light, the entities that were once Douglas and Celine vanished, leaving behind a station buzzing with newfound purpose and unity. As the assembled leaders turned their attention to the tasks ahead, the monument in the atrium pulsed gently, a reminder of the unlimited potential that lay in embracing diversity and fostering cooperation across the stars.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.